We start our 4 p.m. news hour with Hurricane Ian making landfall in southwest Florida earlier this afternoon as a Category 4 storm. Winds in some areas reached more than 130 miles per hour. And this is a live look at Fort Myers, near where the storm made landfall. It's tough to see out there right now as the rain and wind continue to bear down on the city. ABC's Morgan Norwood is live in Tampa with the latest. Morgan.
Hurricane Ian, a monster of a storm, continuing to tear through Florida with this heavy wind and rain. You can see it just ripping these palm trees to shreds right behind me. It's southwest Florida that's really taking the brunt of this landfall happening just a short time ago, and officials there urging everyone to hunker down. Hurricane Ian tearing through Florida, making landfall on the southwest coast as a Category 4 storm. Winds clocking in over 150 miles per hour, lashing the coast. ABC's Ginger Z in Fort Myers as the storm comes ashore.
Our ears are popping. We are in the eye wall of Hurricane Ian. The winds have now come on shore. That little house at the end of the dock is about to go. That water, so powerful.
155-mile-an-hour winds are incredibly dangerous. There will be debris in the air and flooding powerful enough to move cars around. If you're in those southwest Florida counties, you need to be sheltering in place.
In Naples, fierce winds taking out power lines. Watch as sparks fly during a heavy gust. But it's this eerie sight that has areas from Tampa to Sarasota on high alert. Water receding from the Tampa Bay, Manatee River, and Charlotte Harbor as Ian draws it in, all before spewing it out again as that dangerous 5 to 12-foot storm surge.
Don't go out there. It's so dangerous to be out there. So even if you see the water receding, it's not the time to go out there and look at it.
And you can even see the storm surge coming in on Sanibel Island, the water rising and flooding streets in a matter of minutes. As Ian creeps along, more than 2.5 million Floridians under evacuation orders. 30,000 workers are on standby to restore electricity after the storm. President Joe Biden promising federal support.
We'll be there to help you clean up and rebuild, to help you get Florida get moving again. And we'll be there at every step of the way.
And several bridges here in the Tampa area are now closed. More than 200,000 people across the state without power. And officials expect that number to grow as Hurricane Ian continues to lash the state. Morgan Norwood, ABC News, Tampa, Florida.
Stay safe out there, Morgan. Coloradans are standing by to help in Florida. Kim Males is one of 8 volunteers headed into harm's way to set up for the Red Cross.
There's a lot of adrenaline, like, hey, we're here to do a job. Let's get this thing set up. Then we'll hunker down and survive, and then we'll be ready to emerge immediately after the disaster.
To help, you can make a donation at redcross.org. Even though we're far from the hurricane zone, Colorado State University has a team that tracks tropical weather each year. The latest report released last month predicted 18 named storms this year. There have been 9 so far. Out of those storms, CSU predicted 8 of them would be hurricanes. Hurricane Ian is the 4th so far this year. Hurricane season still has 2 more months to go, ending on November 30th. Stay with Denver 7 as we track Hurricane Ian and its impact as it moves over Florida. We'll have updates for you on air, online, and on the Denver 7 Plus app. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office has arrested a youth soccer coach accusing him of sharing child pornography on social media. 54-year-old Alberto Limas Varias has since been suspended from Real, Colorado. The club says his arrest had nothing to do with its program and didn't involve any players. Last month, another Real, Colorado coach was also arrested for sharing child pornography. The sheriff's office says there's no connection between the 2 arrests. The New Zealand and British governments are asking for answers following the death of a Boulder man who was killed by a Clear Creek sheriff's deputy. 22-year-old Christian Glass lived here in Colorado, but he held U.S., UK, and New Zealand citizenships. Police killed Glass on September 20th in Idaho Springs after he called 911 for help from his stranded car. A deputy shot him after refusing to get out of his car. Deputies say they feared Glass was going to stab them. The Clear Creek District Attorney says she has responded to the British and New Zealand governments. Problems continue within Denver's popular STAR program, which sends mental health professionals to emergency calls in place of police. STAR has been replicated across the country, but the program's Community Advisory Committee says they're being cut out of the program they helped start. Committee member Vinny Cervantes says in underserved communities, officers are showing up to STAR calls, which goes against STAR's rules. Back in July, DDPHE's executive director Bob McDonald said he would work with the committee to resolve internal issues, but Cervantes says recently McDonald canceled all meetings with the committee until further notice.
It was betrayal. It was frustration. It really ruins the integrity that Bob had built with our committee and the meetings that we've had with him, because honestly, this is just destroying the integrity of the program.
The Department of Health actually runs STAR, and I reached out to them to ask about the reason behind canceling the committee meetings. We're going in depth on issues within Denver STAR program tonight at 6.
The White House hasn't hosted a conference on hunger, nutrition, and health since 1969. But today, President Biden changed that. He announced partnerships that will be helping with his plan to end hunger by 2030. $8 billion will come from private companies to help improve access to healthy food. Biden is also asking Congress to look at the success of pandemic relief programs that helped with hunger.
We had a real-world example right in front of us. The expanded child tax credit is one of the most effective programs we've ever seen. And that's why my national strategy calls on Congress to expand the child credit permanently.
Biden is also asking Congress to expand SNAP benefits and nutrition counseling coverage by Medicare and Medicaid. Meanwhile, the FDA is proposing an update to foods that can claim they're healthy on the label. The proposed definition would require foods to contain a meaningful amount of one of the food groups, like fruits and vegetables. They also couldn't exceed certain limits of saturated fat, sodium, and added sugar. The FDA hopes the changes would help Americans develop healthier eating patterns. Nearly 200 million pounds of toxic substances are released into our waterways across the country. To come up with this, Environment America looked at data reported by companies to the EPA. But it believes the numbers are even higher because not all types of toxic releases are required to be reported. The new report out today shows in 2020 those toxic substances ended up in more than 800 waterways. On this map, the darker the blue, the more toxic substances were found. They're linked to both health and environmental issues.
Check to see if your state and federal officials have designated that waterway to be unsafe for fishing, unsafe for swimming. And if they haven't been monitoring that waterway or testing water quality, well, for goodness sakes, that's the first step to make sure that our health is not in danger.
In a few cases, companies may be violating their permits, but most of the time that's not the case.
Our understanding is that many of these releases are unfortunately still legal. And that's because state and federal officials have not vigorously enforced and implemented the tools that the Clean Water Act provides for ratcheting down this pollution.
This October will mark 50 years since the Clean Water Act was passed. It prohibits the discharge of pollutants into our waters. The EPA's power will be put to the test next week. Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear a case that will decide if the Clean Water Act should continue to protect wetlands. Fast food chain workers could soon be making $22 an hour in California. The impact on prices we could see nationwide if the law moves forward as planned.
And coming up, the Broncos are using their day off to give back. See how they spent their time off cheering up kids next.